What's up? It's Mike Mal, and you are listening to the Athletor Podcast, where we dive into the processes, mindsets, strategies of some of the most successful athletes and coaches from all walks of life. Athletor Podcast coming at you. This week's guest is none other than Joe Russel. Joe Russel works at USA Wrestling, and one of the things that we really focused on was what is USA Wrestling going to look like if these RTCs start to go away because a lot of the NIL shift. There's no, I'll tell you right now, there's no clear and defined answer, but there are some insights that he gives us into a direction that they seem to be moving. We also talk a ton about travel, and we also talk a lot about how the officiating at the international level has gone from less desirable to a little bit more desirable, and maybe even get some ideas on how we can fix it. All that and more coming up on the podcast. Stay tuned. Athletor Podcast coming at you. Coach Joe Russel, thank you so much for jumping on today and sharing some wisdom with us.
Well, hopefully there'll be a little bit of wisdom, but I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully we have a little bit of fun here too.
Yeah, can't. Well, now that brings me to my first question, actually. You know, the way I look at Team USA from every level, right? Like I've been to the Senior World Championships all the way down to the cadets or U17s. I know how I see your role in the grand scheme of things in as it pertains to USA Wrestling, but how do you see your role as it pertains to USA Wrestling?
Well, I think USA Wrestling gave me a cool title, Manager of Freestyle Programs. But really what I do is, Jaden Cox is our developmental coach, Bill Zedek's the head national team coach, and I kind of do what those two guys tell me to do. And then my biggest job, I think, is just to support the athletes, and if they have any needs or anything I can help them with, I want to be there to step in and fill that gap for the athletes on the team.
Yeah. And you say that and as if it's almost flippant, right? No, I'm just here to support the athletes, but you truly are their biggest one of their biggest resources because you're there as their cheerleader, you're there as their technical advisor, you're there as their tactical advisor, you're there, like you are as you encompass so much of the sport to a lot of these athletes. That's not easy to be an expert in. It's not easy to be an expert in being a good friend. It's not expert, generally that guy is not also a very good technician. Generally, that guy is not also a good tactician. So how do you kind of balance the support system that you bring to these athletes?
Yeah, I think for me in my coaching career, I think guys see how much I love wrestling and being around wrestling and just being in that environment. Probably real similar to you, I guess, but just love being around the sport, love being around the people in the sport. And for me, getting to know the guys and what'll help them, how I can help them, whether it's a small thing like finding sweet potatoes for somebody in Norway, I'll find sweet potatoes in Norway for them, or whether it's playing with their kids so they can get the rest of their workout in. It can be little things like that, or, technically see something on the mat that'll maybe help them take it up a notch against the guys. So just trying to fit in where I can, try not to overtalk, keep my mouth shut as much as I can. But if I got something to throw in there, I try and throw it in. And if I think it can help, I'll speak up for sure.
Awesome. Okay. What we try to do on this podcast as much as possible is dig into the kind of processes that make not just a person successful, but also a organization successful. What is, in your estimation, what do you think contributes the most to USA Wrestling's success internationally?
I think for us, it starts with our grassroots. I think in America, there's a lot of kids on the mat, but there's people behind the scenes. From the kids clubs people running tournaments, the referees that are at the Saturday Kids tournament refereeing and all that stuff. So it starts with our grassroots and it kind of builds up from there. And it's just been awesome to watch and the growth in USA Wrestling. Our membership keeps going up and seeing the athletes involved. But I think the grassroots is key to where it all begins. I think the advent of our RTCs has been very helpful for us. We were kind of down, I'd say 70s and 90s we were great, right? Won the team title in the 90s and the 70s we had some great teams, but I think we were down a little bit, and I think when the RTCs got going and kind of created a whole new economy for wrestling, so our guys could, after college, they could train full-time wrestling and keep competing and keeping guys in for multiple quads has really helped us a ton on the international scene. But it starts, with little kid wrestling and giving those kids opportunities and watching them grow. And the structure of USA Wrestling, it's mostly a volunteer-based organization, so it's thousands of people around the country that are putting in time with kids and helping them grow. And we're just a small part of it here at the main office at USA Wrestling.
Yeah, you said RTCs. The landscape of NCAA wrestling is changing. I mean, not it feels like daily. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it feels like there's always a new rule, there's always a new thing. Do you see the RTCs can do you think you'll see the RTCs continue in the same state they've been in for the last since '09, since 2009, 2010, something like that?
Hey, don't go anywhere. It's Mike. We'll get back to the podcast in just a second. We got to pay the bills though. Do you have an athlete that's looking to break into the social media space? We at AthletorLive.com have a brand new in-depth tutorial done by none other than Caden Henshaw. If you don't know who Caden is, he's not even a Division I wrestler, yet he's got hundreds of thousands of engaged followers. Learn how to create engaging content, grow your followers, and open up new opportunities in the NIL space. Go to athletorlive.com/Caden and we'll give you the first module completely free.
2009, 2010, something like that?
Yeah, I think right now we need a crystal ball for this because it's very scary for us and the landscape has changed a ton. My thought right now is no, we got to figure out how to navigate this new landscape and figure out, how we can keep guys in the pipeline and with NLI kind of changes everything. And I know college programs and RTCs are kind of looking about, how do we invest our money, where we're going to invest now. So it's something we're trying to, I don't know, it's the $1 million question right there. If we could figure out which direction it's going to go, that would be super helpful. So we knew how to react at US Wrestling, but it's a little scary for our older guys, I think, to have that opportunity to stay in an RTC to make a living and still compete. I think that's a little bit at risk right now. But yeah, I don't know what'll happen 10 years from now. It's we got to figure it out. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no question. It's changing. But you said you're looking at ways to continue these things. Now, I don't know that it's going to be housed. I don't know that these RTCs are going to be housed at college campuses for much longer. I just don't see that. But so what are some creative solutions that you and Zadok and Bender are coming up with? Like, has the idea of like autonomous RTCs ever come up? Like, what would that cost, and how do we run them, and what do they look like? Or do we bring it back and everybody comes to the Olympic Training Center? Like, what ideas are you guys kind of floating right now to stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah, the funding model is a tricky thing. Like, how do you pay for it? Having more beds at the OTC, is that going to be more important? One thing I think that's kind of neat that freestyle really hasn't taken advantage of is the WCAP programs. I think they're looking to grow in the Army for men's freestyle, and WCAP for Air Force is looking to grow in men's freestyle. And that may be another alternative for guys, just wrestle for, Army or Air Force, but, get paid, but then can still stay in the full-time training, full-time competing. WCAP is an option that something that's kind of out there. I don't think a lot of people know about right now. But yeah, funding's a big thing. Where's the dollars going to come from? And I think the regional training centers have proved effective. It helps our younger guys develop when they get in the RTC. They grow around the college guys. They grow around the Olympic level athletes. So I don't want to lose that model around the country. We definitely have seen the benefits of that from our age group wrestling all the way up to our senior level. But how it's funded. Does USA Wrestling need to take a bigger role in helping those RTCs fund themselves and take some of that burden off of the college programs that are now shifting that money towards NLI as opposed to the RTC. But we're definitely kicking around ideas. Big thing happened yesterday. It got announced by the USOPC that they just got $100 million gift, and for the 26 and 28, so Winter Games and Summer Games, all those athletes that make the Olympic team will get $100,000 from the USOPC. So that's an incentive we hope that'll
So
help
just making the team
just
gets
making a
just making
team.
the
So you
team.
don't have to medal. Just make the Olympic team. The USOPC has said that money's going to go to the athletes, which I thought was huge. And I love that that donation, we could find ways to spend it other ways, right? But the USOPC is like, no, this money's going to the athletes, and I think that'll, incentives like that. Our Living the Dream Fund has proved very beneficial to keep athletes around, to help them fund themselves for training. This is just another avenue that I think I was pretty excited to see that announcement yesterday from the USOPC.
Yeah, look, that's awesome. But to me, and again, I don't know that there's a question in here, but maybe you can kind of expand upon it. To me, the success that we've seen at the senior level is directly correlated to the depth that we've been able to build in our senior level athletes. Guys, I don't know, gosh, who Mike Machiavelli. Okay. I don't know. Mike Mox never made a senior level team. Okay. But he is right there, right? He's like right there, right? He's wrestling with Snyder. He's wrestling with David Taylor. He's right there. How do we fund those guys? Because those are the guys that are keeping Snyder and Taylor, or not, maybe not Taylor this year, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Those are the
100%.
guys that are keeping them right at the top by constantly pushing them. It scares me. It scares me to think like, oh crap, we might not be able to fund a Mike Mock. We might not be able to fund an Evan Henderson. We might not be. So I guess the question is, are we going to see a drop off in our depth because of what the NIL and lack of RTC funding is going to bring?
Yeah, you're right on that depth. Those guys in our pipeline are huge, and the guys may not make a team, but they raise the level of the room. They raise the level of our guys that do end up making the team. So, that iron sharpens iron has been very important for USA Wrestling. It's kind of crazy. In 2022, we won the world team title. And then in 23, we only had four guys back on the team. We had six new guys on the team. In 23, the team won again. So that's 16 different guys in just 2 years. That kind of shows you that iron sharpens iron, how important it is to American wrestling. It is a big fear. It's not, I don't know if fear is the right word, but it's something we got to address. It's something that we're hopeful to come up with the right answers, make the right decisions moving forward, because yeah, we don't want to lose those guys in the pipeline. Like you brought up Mock's name. We've had two ranking events this year already, and he's medaled in both of them, which is huge, right? So he's proved in Croatia he medaled, and then just this last week in Albania he medaled. So he's important to have in the pipeline, and you don't want to lose guys like that are nipping at the heels of the guys that are ahead of them and have a good chance. And they're beating good guys in the world. So you're right on. But finding the magical answer, I don't think we found it yet. I think, trying things funding wise, our national team, they get a stipend, but it's not near what it needs to be for them to train full time. I think, those numbers have gone up, but not enough. The guys have gotten prize money for medaling at ranking events and stuff. So incentives to try and keep them in there, but we're definitely working on it. I know coming up next month, we plan on having I guess, call it a freestyle summit or a big meeting with RTCs, some of our high level athletes, um, clubs, people involved with men's freestyle wrestling. And one of the things we're going to address is with this new landscape in the NCAA, what do we need to be doing, or how can we attack it, or what's our best guess? Which direction do we need to go to protect what we've done and then protect our place in, American wrestling is very strong, but if you don't keep moving forward, you're going to get passed. And we got so many good kids coming through the pipeline that we want to make sure we're taking care of them and keeping them on the mats because it's exciting. I mean, the growth of wrestling, just I get super excited watching. I mean, I'm a junkie like you, so I was following the California State tournament this weekend. I know you were up there, and then I was, fired up, got my TV. I got a bunch of wrestling that I've already got scheduled to record this weekend in case I can't watch it live, so I can go back and watch the NCAA Division One qualifiers. So I don't know, it's the way it is, and I'm super excited where American wrestling is. But yeah, we gotta keep being inventive and keep working forward. And I hopefully next month when we all get together, um, we'll be able to get the right ideas and keep moving forward with things.
Yeah, I think finding a direction to run in becomes the important part. I don't care which direction we run. I don't. But we just got to run in a direction. Like, you know what I mean? Like right now, just waiting is like, oh, this scares me a little bit, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, like the old lion and
so
gazelle story, right? It doesn't matter if you're a lion or a gazelle. When the sun comes up in the morning, you better be running.
that's it. Period. The end.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I do love that we're having that summit, and that I think it'd be important, that the directives, if not definite, are at least broad stroke. Like, okay, here's what the idea is. Let's even if it's pie in the sky, even if it's okay, we're going to facilitate 5 regional training centers around the country that are autonomous from NCAA institutions. Even that's big. That's huge, right? But now at least we have, okay, well, how much does that cost? All right, well, how much can we subsidize from the USOPC? How much can we subsidize from donations? How much can we subsidize from raising monies, through event coordination, stuff like that? At least we're going in a direction. And I think that that's the most important part to me. Okay, let's talk about the nuts and bolts of wrestling. Okay. When you and Coach Zadok game plan for, let's just call it Yazdani, for whatever, just for the namesake. When you and Coach Zadok would watch tape on Yazdani, let's say, or Sadalayev, how much cooperation or correlation do you guys have with Nittany Lion Wrestling Club in what David and Kyle are doing? And what does that look like on match day, on World Championship, Olympic Championship day? What does that look like?
Yeah, we're real blessed. Doc Bennett is still real involved with the men's freestyle program, and he has his own video system that he's created where he can break down video unbelievably well. So he can, what types is he getting to? What time in the match is Yazdani typically scoring? What are his go-tos? How are people scoring on him? Those kind of things. So a lot of times he'll put together a scouting video for us that we can get to David or his coaches at Nittany Lion and get it to those guys so they can analyze it as well. Then there's discussions back and forth. Pretty cool with speaking, you brought David as an example as some stuff that he saw and picked up that okay, if I do this, then I'm in a better spot to stop what he's doing. And so I think somebody he just picked up just messing around, but video wise, getting a good scouting video together, Doc Bennett is amazing at that. And then just getting a lot of minds together. And that's what's I think been really good. And I don't go back to the iron sharpens iron, but getting guys in the room and just a lot of great minds in the room and people start talking and working on stuff. It's just a blast, sitting at the Olympic Training Center and just watching, different guys working with each other. And what do you think about this? Or what if I went this way instead of that way? And just messing with it. And And that's a blast for me to watch, and there's just a lot of great minds, a lot of guys with a great experience that have been there, done that, felt it, understand it, and when they get together, the sky's the limit. So I think that's been huge for us, just getting in a room together and watching guys go. Kyle Dake's a blast for me to watch because I call him a mad scientist sometimes because he's sitting
Mm.
over there thinking through stuff and then takes a little pause. You can see his thinking, then he goes back a different direction, and it's like constantly trying to improve and get better in those areas. And I think that's where our strength comes from when we get together and as a country and there's a lot of wealth of knowledge amongst people and can come up with something, whether it's and some of the guys will take ideas from anybody, which has been pretty neat to see as well, and sometimes almost too much, people, everybody wants to give some input to them because they want to help them. But I think guys are really good at siphoning that out and coming up with stuff that they think will make a difference in a match. And so getting everybody together, I think is huge and it's been a real positive.
Yeah. Who's the smartest coach out there that maybe like I've heard Casey Cunningham is like the greatest tactician, technical kind of adjuster out there. But is there somebody that you can think of that like kind of blew your mind, like, oh, this dude's operating at a pretty high level right now?
Yeah, no doubt with results. Casey's very special and very gifted, so for sure he's right up there. I think one that I think people don't notice as much. I don't know if notice as much, but just watching him in the room and working with guys, and not necessarily a coach, but Jordan Oliver always impressed me with his wrestling
Really?
IQ. Yeah, he just
Yeah.
always amazed me, and I think when guys got a chance to wrestle with him or just drill with him, you could see him getting better just because Jordan's special. He
Yeah.
understands stuff real well. So that would be something I think maybe people don't always think about, but just watch him in the room. He's the guy that I gravitate over there because I'm learning as he's work training.
I can remember Guerrero bringing him out to my place for a camp. It was during his, let's call it redshirt freshman year. It might have been a little earlier than that. But, uh, you know, I remember he was a kid and I'm sitting there mouth agape going, oh, this kid's, it's not just that he's physically special because he is. There's 100% he is gifted as an athlete. But his his approach to not just the X's and O's, but the creativity that he can kind of wield is unbelievable. Now, trying to schedule him for a podcast, absolutely impossible. Absolutely impossible. I mean, oh, I forgot. I'm so sorry. I mean, yeah, I know we've been sitting here for half an hour, dude. Like, now, but what's interesting to me, and I guess I'm leading towards a question here, is when that when the wrestling, the technique and the creativity and all that, it occupies so much of the brain. Yeah, I kind of give him a pass on sucking with his calendar. I do. I give him a pass on it. So I guess the question then becomes, how do you as an basically as what coach and administrator, how do you deal with that type of personality? Because a lot of the guys are like that, right? Like they're and I'm going to use the word self-absorbed, but it's in a positive way. They have to be self-absorbed. They're trying to make themselves the greatest version of themselves to go compete at the world championships and at the Olympics. How do you deal with their lack of, or maybe they're not great at scheduling or stuff like that?
Yeah, I think encouraging them, nudging them along, trying to show them the importance of it. I know one year when Jo went as a training partner, so he wasn't the guy on the team, but he was there as a training partner for a guy, just making sure he understood it's not about you this time, it's about somebody else, and you need to curtail your lifestyle, you need to curtail your what you're about to this person to help them grow. And I think he's very gifted in that way as well, as long as you're pushing him that way, and it's it's I don't know if pushing's the right word, nudging or encouraging them to make those less selfish decisions, be a little more selfless is important. But he's I don't know, I was just trying to think out of the box. He's a guy that I like watching in the room. As far as coaching in a corner with Cody Sanderson, I've been in a lot of corners with him, and he's saying the right things a lot of times and knows how to read his athletes real well. And it's been fun to watch him and be behind him. And as Bill and I usually we sit second chair, so their personal coach will sit first chair, and we're more of a supportive role. And sometimes I get too excited and forget that I'm supposed to be more supportive and just, the guy worried about, is it a step out, not a step out? Should we challenge? Should we not challenge? Make sure the score is right, those kind of things. Um, but yeah,
What do you think makes him one of the best in corner coaches? I have my thoughts, but I'd like to hear from you.
yeah, I think knowledge of the athlete. I think he spends a lot of time with the guys and kind of knows what makes them tick, doesn't tick, what helps them go the way. He stays real calm in the corner, matter of fact with the guys, and I just think he understands the athlete real well and can see the situation, what they can do to, those 30-second breaks, you can't get a lot out there, but making sure the athletes are calm and ready to go out there again. And listen to him. A lot of times I just repeat what he's saying when I hear him say to the athlete, because I'm a loud mouth, so I say it a little bit louder, but he's saying the right things, what their positioning or where they need to attack or how they need to defend. And a lot of it, I think, is just knowing the athletes, but understanding the sport, understanding positions, understanding the dynamics of a competition, knowing what this referee's like or what the match chairman's like, or, just kind of the atmosphere in the building too. He's got just been around the block enough and obviously the guys at Penn State are doing great things and from Kale as the leader on down to the coaches there, it's fun. And now they got Nick Lee on their college staff, so that's kind of cool because seeing him come up through the ranks and a young guy.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. I just couple names to throw out there, I guess.
No, he's definitely one of the best for sure. You brought up knowing the refs. Can you verbalize to our younger audience just how challenging it was to deal with officials not 10, 15 years ago and how it's changed?
Yeah, I think there's some protections now for the athletes that have been very positive with video review. It holds the officials accountable a little bit more. There's oversight now, making sure the right officials are on the mat with the right athletes out there to kind of protect the athletes a little bit more. But it's always, it's tricky and there's politics involved. And a lot of times when you got USA on your singlet, you're going to have to score a few extra points because they're going to try and find ways for not to get those points on the board, which oftentimes is frustrating and sometimes downright wrong. But just getting guys to understand that it's a tough job. I think when I was a younger coach, and I haven't done it for years now, so I'm kind of talking out two sides of my mouth. But when I was a younger coach, every year I'd make sure I'd referee at least one tournament, so I could see that it is
Mm,
a lot more difficult than we think it is as an athlete or as a coach. We see it through our eyes. So I'd encourage you guys to get out there. High school guys, go referee some kid wrestling or coaches, go put yourself in a referee's uniform and blow the whistle a few times because it's a little trickier than you think. And I think if we understand that, we can do a better job with when we're out there with officials and understand how important they are. But a lot of times what I'm doing is reading in the corner, if I see the mat chairman's body language, okay, maybe we should challenge this one because I can see his body language. He doesn't like the call either, or you can see that no way he's going to change his mind. So maybe we should hold off on the challenge and save it in case we need it a different time. So sometimes it is just reading their body language or, those kind of things and understanding what'll help you get the passivity call or what'll hurt you from getting it. Those kind of things are important.
sure.
Have you
Is
ever
there
been
one
in
coach? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
have you ever been in a situation where one of your athletes is getting really frustrated by a referee? And if so, how did you bring them back to, focus on wrestling as opposed to worrying about the situation?
Yeah, I got a lot of bad examples and maybe a few good ones. But yeah, just a lot of times reminding guys that let us be the guy fighting for you. We'll be down here. We'll be the guys making fools of ourselves and doing what we got to do. But your job's just to wrestle and we'll do the other end of it. But yeah, I've had some crazy examples, I guess, over the years. So I don't know if we want to get into those or not. But
Oh, why not? Oh, I'd say yes. Yes.
the first one that came to mind, this is a long time ago. I had a guy wrestling at the Pan Ams, and it was in Colombia, and it was on t national TV or Colombian TV. And they hadn't had an American lose yet, and they had a Colombian American in the finals. And no matter what we did, we were going to lose. I think if you scored it correctly, we teched the guy, but crazy stuff was happening. The guy was losing his mind, and ended up throwing his arms behind his back and headbutting the guy super hard. And I was like, knock it off. There's nothing you can do about it. They made the decision, nothing you can do about it. And he was just so mad and angry. And there was actually guys on the corner of the mats with guns, protecting us with the military or whatever. I go, you see these guys with guns, knock it off, trying to get him to calm down. But it was one
Those
of
are
those
not
things.
for show, sir. Those
There
are
was
not
no
for
way he
show.
was going to win. No way he was going to win. And it was already determined. And he didn't understand that. It's like, you're just taking one for the team and they got to have a champ on TV. So, but, that stuff happens and it still happens today. We were just at a tournament into January. I was in Bulgaria with guys and there's some calls that don't make sense at all. And, it's, you just don't want guys just to take it, but you also understand that it's the nature and the politics of it, and sometimes there's nothing we can do about it. So it's
But it used to be a lot worse. It
yeah,
used to be
a lot worse.
a
Especially like at
lot
the
worse.
ranking events where you have the video review and stuff like that. In Bulgaria, nobody was there, nobody cared, and we had a guy, McKee from Arizona State, was took the guy out of bounds in a shot. Should have got two for the takedown. They said nothing, and then there was like 5 seconds to go in the match. They come back to the center of the mat. And we didn't challenge the takedown because we knew it was too close of a match. He was up by one, so we didn't want to risk the challenge. So it came back to center. 5 seconds to go in the match. They go caution one against him. When they go back to center, he's still in the center of the mat. Hasn't ran out of bounds or anything like that, but they do a caution one. Nothing we can do about it. And there was no attention. There's supposed to be an attention first, and you're supposed to really be negative wrestling or fleeing. And I didn't really know
Is
what to
there a
say
fix
afterwards.
though? Is there a fix? Like, is there a way to fix it? Because it's gotten better for sure. It has. I mean, video review. I was there, in 16. It was bad. It was bad,
Yeah.
and it certainly has gotten better. But is there a fix? Is there a way to fix it so that this stuff doesn't happen as much?
Well, I think it's when it's more public, it's easier. We challenged obviously at the end of the match, and this is ridiculous. There's no attention, there was no nothing. Um, but there wasn't a lot we could do there. I think when it's a world championships or Olympics, it's harder for them to get away with it, because it is so public, it is so visible. I did go talk to the delegate at that tournament, and I do from time to time go talk to the UWW delegate to make sure. Um, to try and prevent it from down the road. But there's really nothing we could do to help him there. And uh, so sometimes that happens, and Rich Bender does a real good job. Now Bruce Bumgarner's on the UWW board, and Rich is on a lot of committees, and so they have influence to make sure. And we got to do it to protect our sport too, right? If our sport is a bunch of cheaters or, like boxing's in a jam right now that they're trying to work out of because of
Yeah.
similar stuff we were going through with the old Fila days that and I think having Rich's voice at the international level and having Bruce now on the UWW board is going to be very helpful. I did see,
Yeah.
the other day passing around now that the Olympics are over, potential rule changes and stuff like that. And so I think it is really important we have somebody like Bruce at the UWW board level and some
Can you
other
explain
sane minds
Bruce's
there, I
role?
guess.
Sure. Can you explain what Bruce's role is now on the bureau?
Yeah, so Bureau members, I don't know how many there are total, but not a ton, and their influence over the sport is huge. It's not just Lalovich's call, it goes through the board, and they have different committees they set up for different legislation they're trying to get through and stuff. And so, competition board, with rules or like, um, other subcommittees and stuff. So having Bruce there, he's on the emails, he's on the calls, so we know what's going on a little bit more. And then he also knows, um, and can protect our sport, I guess, and protect not just USA Wrestling, but protect the sport. And I think Bruce is the kind of guy who thinks bigger than just, what's best for him or what's best for his team. He's thinking what's best for wrestling, and those are the kind of people you need on the board. And some of the other board members that I've met, I get a good feeling that they're in it for the right reasons. And there's some that you're like, I'm not sure that's going to be good for wrestling, but there's some good people there that are trying to do the right thing for the athletes, but also do the right thing to help grow the sport.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are you, I'm hearing rumblings that Lalovic might move up to the Olympic Committee, the International Olympic Committee. Are you hearing the same things? And if so, does that mean that there's a possibility that Bruce takes over as the president of UWW?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm way down the totem pole, so I'm not on all that privy to all that stuff up top. But I know that Lalovich has been on the IOC executive board, which has been huge for wrestling. And
Mhm.
so I would assume, well, you hear that he does a really good job and that they really like him, and so you could see where he might be moving in a different direction. But I don't know. I haven't heard anything. You probably know more than I on that end, but I know Bruce is very respected around the world. On the votes for getting on the board, I heard his were real high for a first time guy getting on the board, higher than expected. It's so I know there's a lot of respect for him from around the world. So um, I don't think other countries want an American running the show though. So I don't know about that.
That's
I'm
fair.
pretty
That's
sure the
fair. I get
Russians
it.
or Iranians would be like, nah, we like Bruce, but no.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. You are one of the most traveled persons that I know. Um, favorite country to visit, least favorite country to visit. And you don't have to name a country in particular, but maybe just a region.
Wow, now you're making it hard. The prettiest part of the world I've ever been to is British Columbia, Canada. So I love BC, Canada, which is not that far away, but I grew up in the northwest of the US, and going up to that part of Canada I think is just unbelievably beautiful. But as far as wrestling goes, um well, two places I haven't been that I want to go as a wrestler that I'm going to Cuba to see how they produce such great wrestlers with what they have. And years ago, Jesus Wilson, he was in Minnesota when I was there, and some of the stories he told me, and just, he was fifth in the world when he was 19 years old, but he learned to wrestle either on the beach or the sand, or they put mattresses together, and that's kind of how he's trained. And
Really?
see how good people could get with, that you don't have the fancy weight room, you don't have the fancy equipment, but he still found a way to get good very young. So I would like to see what Cuba's like, and I've always wanted to go to Iran to see their reverence for wrestling. You can see it. Their fans travel and watch them compete, and I just want to see, I don't know, spend some time there and kind of learn from them and see what they're doing. Because but I haven't been to those two places, so I can't say that. But in 19, before all the craziness with COVID and before the war with Ukraine, in 19 I went to Russia 4 different times. And that was a unique experience for me, just being over there a week at a time, but 4 different parts of the country. And I really like that Ossetia area, Body Claus, I can't say the word right, but just
Bloody
kind of,
Kafka.
yeah, beautiful. It was a beautiful place. And, I just was down in Dagestan, and there, you went to the bazaar, the market, and they had USA wrestling stuff all over the place. They were illegally selling, just like,
Really?
it's just fun to see. Like, they just love wrestling down there, and so, I don't know. It's kind of neat to see that kind of stuff. Well, we were in Krasnoyarsk together, so yeah, it's an interesting place. And, any place that has a big statue of a wrestler out in front of their big stadium is a pretty cool place to visit. And then we went, the World Cup that year was in Yakutsk, Russia, which is way out there in Siberia. It's actually closer to Anchorage, Alaska than it is to Moscow. So
Moscow. Hmm.
those are some unique experiences that I really enjoyed. I'd say my favorite place I've been visiting in Eastern Europe would be Hungary. I really like the Budapest and
I talk about it all the time. It's my favorite city in the world. It's my
okay.
favorite city in the world.
Well,
I
I'm glad I
love
said
it.
it because it's a place I really enjoy when they have tournament. They run a great wrestling tournament, but I really enjoy
They
just
do.
sightseeing and checking out the food and that kind of it's
Food's
easy place to
great.
get around too.
Food is great.
Yes.
Like people sleep on it. It's so good. The food in that city is awesome. You could walk around for days and still not see everything. It's probably my favorite city in the world.
Mhm.
Okay, now that we've established a bar of where you love to be in the world and that kind of stuff, what place just like I'm not going back there?
Well, no, I love I don't know, I love to travel, love experiences. I've had some rougher experiences in like Central and South America that were a little harder and just, tournaments, you're kind of guessing when things start, you're kind of guessing where to go and where weigh-ins are and stuff like that. It makes it a little tricky and when I was actually a little kid, I was on a kid world team and the world championships were in Mexico City one year and I had a tough experience there where I learned the hard way about officiating. I actually lost a match to a guy from Mexico down there where I was never on bottom. I was always on top. I was throwing him, I was gutting him, and there was no bout sheet, no nothing. Just they raised his hand at the end. I don't know how. And I was lucky because it was a round robin finals, and I pinned the other guy who beat the guy from Mexico. So I still won the tournament, which was good. But I was my first experience with, yeah, you can get screwed, It just didn't make sense. It was a little rough, and that was not a good experience for me as a young guy. And there's some other stories too that are not wrestling stories, but that made it a rough trip. So I would say I've had some tough experiences going south of our border.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, let's say my son is going. Let's say he's going to Mongolia this year, this summer. He's going to train. He's going to wrestle. What are like three things that you would tell him that you have to do? Meaning you got to bring this, and here this is going to be a little bit weird. So what do you tell some of these younger guys that like when you're going on some of these trips about the culture shock?
Yeah, I don't know if I tell them anything good, just hang in there, take a deep breath, make sure you don't get too riled up with things. It's not going to be easy. There's going to be difficult things to overcome. Just let it roll off your back like water and try and have that kind of mindset. But yeah, going to Mongolia, that's a place I want to go too. So it's kind of a bummer. They
Yeah.
have they have a ranking event this year, but it's during our final X, so we won't be able to go. But some great wrestling in Mongolia, great tradition and stuff I would love to see. So if your son's going to Mongolia, I got some good contacts for him too. So
Okay. I'd like to hear that. I think he might be. But yeah, the the travel stuff to me, you know, it's been an absolute blessing because it gives you a perspective on A, how good we have it, number one, but also B, like, oh, you can get this done on mattresses. You can get this done. You
yeah,
can be world class, without every bell and every whistle in your wrestling room. I mean, you've seen our wrestling room. Most colleges don't have our wrestling room,
yeah.
and so every once in a while we have to go to the small room in our the small wrestling room in our wrestling room to get a workout in. And I see him rolling his eyes. I'm like, I will pluck those things out of your head. Like, come on, stop it. Like understand, like I had to roll mats out in a classroom every day when I was in high school. And so do you ever talk to the guys about the perspective that these trips give them?
Oh, 100%. You can see guys grow a ton. I love when it's a blast for me when it's a guy's first time overseas. He's never been there before and trying to walk him through it and help him through it. And it doesn't happen as much on the senior level with guys. It did happen recently with a guy, which was a lot of fun. Just taking away his fears, taking away his apprehensions, and just I don't know. I like when guys go overseas, a lot of times our natural reaction is to stay in the hotel room and kind of hold up and not do anything. And you see the hotel and the venue and that's it. But encourage guys to get out a little bit and check things out as long as it's in a safe environment with a group of them. And I think that's fun to watch them grow. But yeah, taking guys in their first time overseas is a blast, just seeing it through their eyes and just trying to remember back how it was for me and I think once they get over there, guys adapt and handle things real well, but it does change your perspective for sure. What we think is a terrible wrestling room, maybe you get back in that small, tiny room, you actually are thankful for it,
Yeah,
or you're thankful that you can get the eggs cooked the way you want your eggs cooked, or stuff like that.
sure.
The small things that watching guys grow and do that experience, and that's one thing I love is just I don't know, seeing how it changes their perspective in life, and that's an important thing for them to learn as much as it is for go there for the wrestling experience for the other growth they get in life is just a blast for me to see.
Yeah, that's always a fun thing watching them go. Yeah, we got pretty good. We're doing just fine. We're doing all right here in Poway. With 75 and sunny every day. Yeah, yeah. It's funny.
I was amazed
Speaking.
by your guys' facility. Amazed.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
it's really nice. But you know, it goes back. We were talking about Krasnoyarsk, and I can remember. I had some apprehension, going there and stuff like that. My first time in that part of Russia. It's gonna be cold. I don't deal with the cold all that well. But here I was, my first night there, and I go out like so the Hotel Krasnoyarsk is right next to the little restaurant there. So I go outside the hotel to go right next door to the restaurant. I just see Kyle Snyder walking around with a t-shirt on. It was negative 30, like it was really cold. I'm like, this dude's wearing a t-shirt. I better buck up a little bit, like the dude had a t-shirt on.
That's funny.
So all those things when you kind of get over there and you realize, oh, it's cold, but it's not that like you're not gonna die, you're fine, or even like uh Guatemala, right? Like, yeah, you hear some wild stories, but I was safe as safe can be just walking down the street. Nobody cared. So yeah, it does change your perspective quite a bit. And a lot of these younger guys, yeah, I can tell a lot of these younger guys are a little apprehensive at first, but they assimilate pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think it's cool just seeing people are just people, right? So I remember we were in Dagestan and this one of the Russian wrestlers took the guys to his home to have dinner, and his mom was there, and she was worried because her son was almost 30 and not married yet, same things our moms worry about, and just, she was feeding a bunch of these American wrestlers with, she was just happy to open her home up to people, and people are people, I think we learn that we're not as different as we think when we go overseas and we spend some time with people from other cultures and we find more commonality than differences, I would say. Our governments may hate each other, but I don't know, wrestlers are wrestlers and people are people and we speak the same language on just as human beings.
For sure. All right. We're going to get to our sprint now. Try not to think about these answers. Just fire away as quickly as you can. Ready? What is the greatest wrestling shoe of all time?
Greatest wrestling shoe of all time. Well, I had these old Russian like sambo shoes. I don't know what they were called, but when I got those when I was a kid, I thought I was the coolest guy on the block. Even though they were slippery
Yeah.
as all get out, I wore them all the
Yeah,
time.
they had no soles on. They have no
No
soles on.
soles.
Yeah, I have a
Just
pair.
a piece of leather on the bottom, but I felt cool
Yeah,
putting
I
them
actually
on.
have a pair from when
Okay.
I went over there when I was a kid. Yeah, I still, man, they hurt your feet like hell though, but they were so cool looking. They were awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
All
funny.
right. So we were talking a bunch about travel. Is there one book that you would recommend one of these kids reads before they go and travel somewhere?
No, I don't have a good answer for that one, to be honest with you. But
All right.
I'm gonna
All
go with the
right. Fair enough.
Bible because that's the basic one that I think teaches a lot of good life lessons.
Fair enough. We'll take it. Okay. You only get 4. They got to be American. Who is on your Mount Rushmore of wrestling?
I would say John and Ben Peterson because they inspired me as a little kid. We didn't have a TV when I was a kid. My dad didn't believe kids should watch TV, but he bought one for the '76 Olympics. And so kind of the first guys I ever saw on TV would be the Peterson brothers. And my brother and I was like, hey, we want to be like those guys someday. So those guys inspired me a ton as a little guy. Dan Gable would be another guy as a kid that we all looked up to and dreamed about being like him. And then fourth one, let's see, let's go. I don't know. It's now you're getting me stuck. I'll go with my old boss, Jay
Everybody,
Robinson, because he changed my life.
there you go. He was actually an innovator in the sport too. Like, don't kid yourself. Like, he was one of the guys that thought about marketing before anybody thought about marketing. You know,
Yeah.
he thought like he was the precursor to all these dopey podcasts that there are about wrestling. But no, he was like he you know he was a pioneer in that regard, and I don't think he gets enough credit for it. That's a great 4th pick. I love that one.
All
All
right,
right,
good.
last one. You get a magic wand. You could change one thing about the sport of wrestling, and it changes tomorrow. What would you change?
Well, as far as freestyle rules right now, the out of bounds, grounded, not grounded, where the points come, I think is too subjective right now. So as far as a rule change, that would be it. I would say as far as wrestling goes, if we could find a way to shorten our events for kids, I think it'd be easier to get parents more involved and kids involved.
Amen.
If we could do the
Amen.
hour and a half tournament or dual meet, I think that's fun for kids and parents. Right now we do, 7 a.m. weigh-ins and then hopefully get out by midnight. And I think that's something I would like to
Not
change,
good.
I guess.
Yeah, that's a great one. I don't think that, dude, I don't think enough people realize like how taxing that is on everyone involved. Everyone involved. Now, I get it. There are logistics that go into this that are unavoidable, right? And part of the thing is the money, right? Like you can either run a really small event and not make money, but it'd be out soon and have it be a good experience, or you can run a puppy farm, which is thousands of kids, and now we're there for 3 days straight. So I understand there are logistics involved. However, I do think it's a solvable problem, right? I mean, I think that we can figure this out.
Yeah, I don't think we have yet, but I know like for us diehards, I like the 3-day tournament where they're all day and we get to watch every kid in the country wrestle. But I also think for our younger athletes, our families just get involved in wrestling, we need to not we need to find a way to get them hooked before they do the 3-day grind tournament. Just
No doubt about it. All right. Coach Russell, thank you so much for coming on and spending some time with us today. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me on. I had a lot of fun and I appreciate what you do for the sport and look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, I'll check it out soon, man. I'll see you in the NCAAs.
Yep. See you in a few days.
All right. Sounds good, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
Wait. Don't go anywhere before you hit that next button. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, do us a huge favor. Click that subscribe button. And if you're so inclined, leave a review and share it.